And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Back once again, author of Killing the Deep State, our great friend, Dr. Jerome Corsi. Dr. Corsi, welcome back.
Kevin, it's a great pleasure to be back with you. Thank you.
You know, have we blown up the Death Star, or is the Empire striking back?
Well, I think in the end Donald Trump wins, but the deep state, my whole book on Killing the Deep State is not going to go down easily. And I define the deep state basically as the intelligence agencies, now together with the Department of Justice and the FBI, that really have been operating on their own agenda under President Obama and have been deeply opposed to Donald Trump being president. I think are still in the process of trying to wage a coup d'etat where they can impeach Donald Trump, except I don't think it's going to work. I think in the end, Donald Trump's going to end up killing the deep state.
Well, let's hope so. Dr. Corsi, your thoughts on Rex Tillerson getting the boot?
Well, I mean, Rex Tillerson, I think, did a good job. He is clearly a CEO type and used to managing his own operation at the State Department. My guess is that President Trump's going to be more comfortable with Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo was number one in his class at West Point, and he's been giving President Trump these almost daily briefings on national security issues. And I think they've gotten to trust one another and be very close. I think it'll be a good working relationship, and that Tillerson, I think, has brought it to this point, and now I think Trump wants a new team in place as he goes forward with issues like North Korea, et cetera.
Dr. Corsi, where did the deep state begin?
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, I became, I guess, aware of it. I was 17 years old when Jack Kennedy was killed, and watching that whole episode unfold, including Lee Harvey Oswald being killed that Sunday, the patsy was eliminated and there's no trial. I mean, it sure seemed to me that we were watching a play here that was being staged by the intelligence operations. And that's been confirmed, I think, largely over the past few years. And then I guess another awakening for me was during Vietnam, when I realized that the CIA was dealing drugs through Air America and had been doing so since the OSS was created during World War II or before World War II. And, this is a kind of an eye-opening understanding that our intelligence agencies and now the Justice Department and the FBI are not on the agenda of the Constitution or a limitation of their duties, but have essentially gone rogue and are pursuing their own globalist, leftist agenda.
Well, Dr. Corsi, how do we enforce the law and the law enforcement folks? The laws only stand if we have guardians to enforce them.
Well, and that's the critical problem. I mean, I think what Donald Trump has been against here is a propaganda war. This whole idea of Russian collusion, and now we have Devin Nunes' report out of the House Intelligence Committee, which again says no Russian collusion. Of course, Special Counsel Mueller says, well, we just haven't looked hard enough yet. We'll keep looking. But the point is, we have seen an undermining of the Department of Justice just by the revelations that have come out, that there was this dossier prepared by Fusion GPS that was, in fact, partly paid for by Hillary Clinton's campaign, and the DNC. It was brought to the FISA court. FISA court was not told that it was a opposition research or that the Department of Justice had not fully validated it, and that gave permission to do electronic surveillance in Donald Trump's campaign, his transition, and 6 months or more into the administration. And when President Obama was in office, that information, the names were unmasked, and the information was leaked to the press. These are all crimes. I think the American people are getting their heads around the fact that we've had a rogue, anti-Trump, holdovers that come from the Obama administration that are not following the law but are pursuing a political agenda.
Our great friend Dr. Corsi with us, Dr. Jerome Corsi, Killing the Deep State, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's talk about an old friend of ours who has been a stalwart of conservatism, of keeping America safe, yet under criticism by the president. That is the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. Your take on him, sir?
Well, I think Jeff Sessions is, a very. I've known Jeff Sessions for years, and I've had tremendous respect for him. And I think he's a very cautious, very professional enforcer of the law. And you're going to find before this is over, he's going to have done his job. I mean, we've got something like 27 leak investigations going on. He's brought in an outside prosecutor from within the Justice Department, but outside D.C. Look at this FISA court fiasco. I mean, first time in American history that one party has conducted electronic surveillance on the campaign of the opposition. It's shocking. And I think Jeff Sessions will very seriously consider a special prosecutor. What President Trump has got to do now is wind down this mission of Robert Mueller before it just goes completely afield. All we've had is, 12 Russians who have been indicted. They're not going to come back to the United States to face trial. And Rosenstein, number 2 in the Department of Justice, said they didn't affect the election by their postings in social media, and Trump and his campaign were not involved in working with these Russians. So we've had where's the Russian collusion? And yet we spent almost 2 years talking about it.
Dr. Jerome Corsi joining us, Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio, author of the new book, The Deep State. See, Dr. Corsi, like you, I've known Jeff Sessions for years, the man of the highest integrity. You have the president and our friends like Sean Hannity criticizing Jeff Sessions. It just makes you wonder. I trust Jeff Sessions, as do you.
Well, we're all impatient to see justice here, and especially when Hillary Clinton's flying around the world still blaming everybody except herself for her own loss. I mean, it's pretty pathetic. And we all want to see indictments. We want to see convictions. But I've got to say that the whole purpose of my book in Killing the Deep State is to explain and support President Trump in doing it the right way, which is to lay the basis for understanding these charges when they come down. I mean, if you were to say today that President Obama and Hillary Clinton had committed treason by wanting to, concoct this whole plan to blame Russia, 2 years ago that would have been unbelievable. Today, I think an increasing number of people are willing to take seriously the idea that Obama and Hillary were trying to do a 16-year coup to transform the United States from a constitutional republic into some kind of a European-style socialist or communist country. That idea, I think, would not have been as easily accepted till we know as much as we do about the electronic surveillance that was conducted and the leaking of it. I mean, remember, President Trump said he'd been under electronic surveillance, and the mainstream media blasted him, and it was because he was out in front of establishing the base for understanding these things. I think Jeff Sessions will do a good job of laying the predicate with initial indictments for what's going to come later in a process I predict in Killing the Deep State is going to take a couple of years.
Killing the Deep State, the fight to save President Trump. Our great friend Dr. Corsi with us, Kevin Miller in the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Obama. Dr. Corsi, you have been under siege for your investigative work during the Obama reign. How dangerous was Obama, and how dangerous is Obama now concerning his relationship, his running the deep state?
Well, I think Obama was constantly undermining what I perceive to be the national security interests of the United States. I mean, Hillary Clinton and Podesta, as I point out, I wrote a whole chapter in Killing the Deep State, were being paid heavily by Russia. They were in Russia's back pocket. Under reset, Hillary was selling Russia the hypersonic technology that Russia's used in this new nuclear missile that has been unveiled. And Podesta was getting paid, and Obama winked while the Uranium One deal was going down. The Clinton Foundation got $147 million on that deal, and Russia ended up with 20% of U.S. uranium, which did actually get out of the United States, some of which appears to have gone to North Korea. And at the same time, Mueller, who was then head of the FBI, covered up that there was an investigation of bribery going on, Russian bribery in the U.S. uranium industry, and that information was kept from the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, which ultimately voted twice to allow Russia to buy this Uranium One company. I think all this is a huge scandal. I think it undermined our national defense. That says nothing about the foreign policy with all of the Obama concessions to the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, the disaster in Libya. I mean, it goes on. I think that the Obama presidency, in retrospect, is going to be seen as one of our more dangerous episodes, and Hillary, I fear, would have just continued the Obama policies, including the desire to change the Constitution to amend, restrict the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Second Amendment. It goes on.
Dr. Corsi, let's talk about the media that has vilified true patriots like you and myself and others for years. How they cloud the issue, how they give Obama and Clinton and the deep state cover.
Well, this whole mainstream media has become a partisan media, and I've been following recently this and doing a lot with this QAnon, who is, I believe, an intelligence agent working closely with Donald Trump, reporting on the Internet bulletin boards, the 8chan, which are very deep bulletin boards in the Internet. And what's been pointed out is essentially that the CIA has never quit giving talking points to the media. We have a partisan media that hates Trump, vilifies anyone who dared to object to President Obama. I mean, if President Obama had been criticized the way that the mainstream media criticizes Donald Trump, everybody would be racist. And look at how they drew the wagons around Obama and Hillary, and you couldn't criticize them without being vilified. And I think the American people finally saw through that and realized that there are important issues here which go back to, and I think it's going to come up again, this whole issue that we never did get an official original birth certificate for Obama. We don't have grades. Looks like a CIA creation to me. And Hillary and Bill Clinton going back to Arkansas, where the cocaine was being flown in from Colombia by the CIA when he was governor. What was that all about?
Dr. Corsi, final question for you, sir. We take a look at where do we go from here. Mueller, Comey admitting that he leaked things to get this special prosecutor, his old buddy Robert Mueller. This is something like a work of fiction, but it's real world, sir.
It is, and then you find out that these two lovers in were Strzok and Page were in McCabe's office, who was like, number 2 or number 3 in the FBI, and they're saying they have to have an insurance policy to get rid of Donald Trump if he should win the election. They memorialize this in a message to each other. I mean, that sounds to me like treason. That sounds to me like concocting a lie, which they knew was a lie. Everyone in the FBI knew that this Russian dossier from Fusion GPS could not be validated, and yet it went on, and yet they continue this and are still continuing it. I'm sure today we're going to see Adam Schiff try to get more press arguing about Russian collusion. We've got Michael Isikoff's written a book about, there's a cover that looks like, the Politburo with Trump on the Politburo. I mean, this is ridiculous. When did the Democrats become McCarthyites? I guess they did. They turned against Russia when Russia wasn't communist anymore. That must be the answer.
Dr. Corsi, don't be a stranger. We urge everyone to get your new bestseller, Killing the Deep State. We always appreciate you, sir.
Kevin, thank you very much. I really appreciate you, too.
Our great friend, Dr. Corsi, joining us. Your thoughts on the deep state and, of course, Rex Tillerson getting the boot. Breaking news, breaking real news as it happens. KIDO Talk Radio. And the real news, the real radio, real talk. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Big stories happening all over the place.
Fox News has learned the former oil executive was asked to step aside. A senior White House official says President Trump wants to make sure he has his new team in place ahead of upcoming talks with North Korea and various ongoing trade negotiations. Tillerson had disagreements with the president on key issues, including North Korea. The president has nominated CIA Director Mike Pompeo to become the next Secretary of State, and Gina Haspel, the deputy director of the CIA, has been tapped to lead the agency. In Washington, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
Thank you, Rachel. Let's go to Liberal Steve at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberal Steve.
Oh, my God. Give me a break. That 72-year-old nutcase you just had on talking about deep state in his new book. God. And then he talks about the CIA are the deep state, and then he's talking about Tillerson being replaced by the head of the CIA. Deal? So the deep state just went to a deeper state under Trump is what he's actually saying.
No, actually, the new head of the CIA or the old head of the CIA was a congressman.
Yeah.
Right, so it wasn't like he was a lifetime CIA guy. Mike Pompeo was a congressman.
I know. But come on. He was a congressman. He's part of the deep state. And then they put him in charge as Secretary of the State. If you want to believe what the nutcase was telling you for the last 20 minutes,
Dr. Corsi has always been a personal friend of mine and reports the news that others are fearful to talk about.
Well, you have a lot of personal friends, it seems like, Miller, that are nutcases.
You're a personal
come on,
friend.
look at Right to Life. And I'm a nutcase all the way.
Well, we are who we are. Takes one to know one, I suppose.
Yeah, we are who we are. So I'm just saying, the deep state, can we let go of the deep state?
Who's to say that you're not an operative of the deep state?
I remain silent on that remark.
As you should.
That you shouldn't even know anything about. How did you know? Where did you hear this?
We know what you're doing at night.
Give me some names. I want some names.
I want a lot of things.
You shouldn't even know about this part of me, Miller.
Well,
I'm serious. I got to hang up. I got to go. Bye.
27 after the hour, you're listening to Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Terry, formerly of State College, Pennsylvania, on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Morning, Kevin. I guess I'm happy to see that Tillerson's got the boot. Was it a week ago Turkey threatened Exxon because Exxon was moving into an area off of the country of Greece? And shortly thereafter, we found out that the Fifth Fleet or the Seventh Fleet, I forget which one, they were going in to the area to protect Exxon. Immediately, it's like, oh, man, Tillerson's already padded his pocket. So
you're happy that Tillerson got the boot?
I am, because I think he was only going to, in the end, help the agenda of international corporate heads, rather than the American public. That was my suspicion at the beginning, and I think it was just confirmed. Exxon's going. How did Exxon go in? Who sent in the Fifth Fleet? To protect Exxon Oil from Turkey? Come on. Who's got that kind of power? Who's got that kind of authority?
The President of the United States.
Yeah, but was the President of the United States given all the information so that he could do an intelligent decision? I don't think he was given all the information. And I think maybe he just finally said, wait a second, this is a no-brainer. This is pretty obvious. Let's see, Tillerson, Exxon. Tillerson, Exxon. Guess what? And by the way, Liberal Steve, Dr. Corsi, I've been following his work for years. He'll do more in a year to preserve the republic than you will do in 10 pitiful lifetimes of yours. So, Liberal Steve, you need to get your head far out of that dark place that you keep it and keep an eye on what's really going on in the republic, and you would be just as concerned as everyone else.
That's our job here.
I know, and you keep it up, doing a great job there, too. Let me tell you, Kevin, boy, our president has a fight ahead of him yet. Just when we think, okay, clouds are starting to clear, then comes another batch of them. I'm telling you, we need to send the boys down there for President Trump's personal bodyguards, have them take over the intelligence agency. We would get some stuff done. We really would. And, boy, if we could just get everybody vetted and get them there. Hey, Tony's down there. Maybe Tony ought to step up to the plate and offer her services.
Tony Sonesco, thank you very much, Terry.
You have a good day, Kevin. Keep up the great work.
Our great friend Terry, formerly of State College, Pennsylvania. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good.
And Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. The president set to head out west with the details. Fox News Radio's Jessica Rosenthal. Boy, never a dull moment with this administration. Jessica, good morning.
Good morning, indeed. Never a dull moment, just as we expect the president to arrive in a few hours here in San Diego. He announces that his Secretary of State is out in favor of CIA Director Mike Pompeo. I'm assuming we might hear a little bit about that when he speaks at Miramar Air Station to military service members, but it remains to be seen what he'll say after visiting these wall prototypes.
Indeed, when you're thinking about the wall prototypes that was set to dominate the news cycle, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, now you have out with the old, in with the new, which people would be asking about all day today.
Yeah, and listen, there's been such a high turnover rate with this administration, and yet things keep trucking along. So, I think we're going to find out what this means. This is obviously a pretty high level part of this turnover happening right here with Tillerson being out. And I was reading on social media, one of the reporters who was traveling with Tillerson in Africa on his recent trip said, as we were landing, no indication that this was imminent, that he was going to be leaving. And we all know, while Mr. Tillerson was in Africa, the president announced through South Korean leadership that he'd be negotiating, or at least speaking with North Korea's leadership. So it's really unclear what sort of role Mr. Tillerson has been playing as of late. We do know that, I think it was in December, the president had tweeted that it was fake news that he and Tillerson's relationship was rocky and that Tillerson was on his way out. Now, a lot can happen in 3 months, so I don't know if we can really draw any conclusions from that December tweet, but still it's noteworthy and being sort of sent around again, if you will, in light of this exit.
Jessica Rosenthal joining us, Fox News Radio. What's the mood on the ground concerning President Trump? How popular or unpopular is he in California?
Well, I think as we all know at this point, California sort of likes to call itself the resistance. And certainly several of our leaders here in the state, Democratic leaders, of course, have happily taken on that title. Our Senate president, the mayor of Los Angeles, the mayor of Oakland, the governor of California, Jerry Brown, happy to sort of have that designation as the resistance. But when I spoke to San Diego's Republican Party chairman yesterday, he said, look, there's still a lot of support for this president, especially at a grassroots level. I spoke to Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, whose district is not here in San Diego. It's just to the north in Orange County. He said he would happily stand with the president, would love if the president came to his district. He's fighting, by the way, for re-election in his district this fall, Dana Rohrabacher is. And so a lot of people still insist, hey, you can call yourself the resistance all you want in California, but there are still people not near the coastline who support the president and did vote for him, even though overwhelmingly the state of California went for Hillary Clinton. And certainly the people on the ground here in San Diego, the folks who came out to protest yesterday, who were motivated to do so, are not in favor of this president. They think the wall is racist. They think the president's racist and say so in no uncertain terms. But at the same time, we're expecting a group of people today, the San Diegans for Border Security. They are going to be protesting just ahead of the president's visit in support of the president, right near these 8 prototypes that the president will be checking out later. So it's a mixed bag, really.
Jessica Rosenthal, thank you.
Sure.
All right. Again, our top story, Rex Tillerson is out. Kevin Miller in the morning. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're either for the president or you're not for the president. That is one big story, number one. Number two, a sad story coming out of Preston, Idaho, where you have a junior high teacher who has been accused, and apparently there is confirmation of this. This is, so the story goes, of feeding a puppy. That's right, feeding a puppy to a snapping turtle. From our friends at Channel 7, a junior high school teacher is under investigation after he fed a puppy to a snapping turtle in front of students. Now, here's the thing about this is that you have the school district investigating, and look, here's the skinny on this. I always say innocent till proven guilty. I always take a look at these things, these stories with hype and hyperbole. On the other hand, well, let's get the details, and then I want to get your comments on this, whether or not this is appropriate for middle school students. Here at KIDO Talk Radio. We'll get to that story in a second here.
The accused teacher is named Robert Crossland. He's been teaching here at Preston Junior High for several years. And according to some parents I talked to, feeding live animals to his reptiles in front of students is nothing new.
What I have learned in the last 4 days is disgusting. It's sick. It is sick.
Local animal activist Jill Parrish is the one who contacted police after a teacher contacted her last week about an incident involving Preston Middle School science teacher Robert Crossland.
I'm not going to allow this to be swept under the rug because I know exactly how it works in small towns.
According to Jill, it was after hours on Wednesday when Mr. Crossland fed a live puppy who was reportedly sick to one of his reptiles. He has a snake and a snapping turtle. Apparently, teachers could hear the puppy screaming from across campus, and it all happened in front of students.
Allowing children to watch an innocent baby puppy scream because it is being fed to an animal, that is violence. That is not okay.
I can tell you we've got numerous calls, yeah.
Franklin County Sheriff David Fryer says the department is looking into it.
We're investigating the facts and turn it over to the prosecutor, and he's the one that will determine if the law has been broken.
And the Preston School District Superintendent sent out a statement saying they're aware of a regrettable circumstance involving some of the biological specimens at Preston Junior High. He went on to say, while the district certainly does not condone individual actions that may violate district policy or reasonable expectations of behavior, we hope that any errors in judgment made by a teacher in this instance will not cause us to forget the years of care, effort, and passion the teacher has given to students in Preston School District.
You can be a good person and you can be a good teacher. What you did is not okay and it is against the law.
Jill, who had Mr. Crossland as a teacher herself, says this has been going on for years. She says he'll offer extra credit to students who bring in an animal for his reptiles to eat. And he says it's all...
Hold on. Extra credit to bring in live animals to feed his snapping turtles and snakes? Now, again, this is from East Idaho News. This is from Channel 13. You're listening to Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Is this really educational? And the local school district there in Preston just kind of soft-toeing this? Apparently, Mr. Crossland is still teaching. Now, again, people are innocent till proven guilty, but in my personal opinion, he should be on suspension pending a complete investigation. The police, looks like a nice man, the sheriff there. He's received plenty of calls. What the heck is he doing? But there is an attitude in this state that we don't protect animals. You know, as many of you know, I am not down with people having their dogs in the back of pickup trucks. If kids and people aren't allowed in the back of pickup trucks, neither should animals be. We've had animal rights groups try and protect animals, and get shot down in the fun-loving Idaho legislature. Because apparently they don't like animals either. But here you have this extreme case. Now imagine if this happened in Kuna. Imagine if it happened in Nampa or Meridian or Boise. Who in the world would defend this? Who in the world could defend this?
In an effort to
extra credit to bring in live animals to feed his pets? This is something out of some crazy movie.
Teach them about the circle of life.
The circle of life, that's the Lion King. Okay, so let's assume this published report is true. Who with any ounce of smarts, compassion, or education would have a live animal screaming and not do anything about it? Tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like to think that if I were there, I'd grab a shovel that my man John gave me to send to the president and save that puppy from that snapping turtle. What is going, and this is middle school in Idaho?
You have a teacher who is taking these kids in there and showing them this torture to these animals and saying, oh, this is so cool. This is nature. This is what happens in nature. How is that not screwing with these 12, 13-year-olds' minds?
The superintendent tells me that Mr. Crossland is still employed here at Preston Junior High, and while the incident is under investigation.
12 to 13-year-olds, and you see how the district is covering for this. Well, he's been a good boy for years. He's been a good teacher for years.
He has not been placed on administrative leave.
Or disciplined. Pete in Mountain Home. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pete.
Morning, Kevin. The school district called it a regrettable incident.
Yes.
And I would like to point out, in nature, I don't believe mother coyotes or other wild animals take their puppies and put them in a container where they can't get away from a snapping turtle. I mean, if an animal is swimming in water where snapping turtles lived, yeah, they might get pulled under. But I don't believe that they are deliberately fed to the snapping turtles by their parents. And what this guy did, what he's encouraging these kids to think of as somehow acceptable. You look at serial killers, and they start out torturing animals when they're young. And this guy, I don't think I'd want him teaching my kids.
I don't think I'd want him teaching anybody's kids.
Well, it's like, clearly the man has no empathy at all for any other living creature if he's willing to do this and thinks, oh, this is so cool. Look, we're going to have the kids bring in their, gee, I wonder how many kittens they fed to the snakes. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Well, and even more disappointing is the school district allowing him to keep teaching and giving the cover that, well, years of teaching, who in there, this is animal cruelty.
Yes, it is, yeah. And it is also something that is not something that you want your kids to learn as acceptable. I think if I were a parent, I would be down there demanding this guy to be fired.
Extra credit when you bring in animals to feed his monsters.
Isn't that special?
Amazing.
Just absolutely.
Well, this should be a national story, and unfortunately, I don't know if it will be, but it should be. I mean, there should be tons of outrage. People should be at this middle school.
Oh, but he's a good teacher.
He's a good boy, yes.
He's a good teacher, yeah.
I love this. And it's funny how the Statesman, poo-poos the story and saying regrettable circumstance involving some biological specimens. Tell that to someone who loves a dog.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I'd like to know what are these other live animals that the kids are bringing in.
And I love this. Well, it happened in front of students, but but the school wasn't in session. But it happened on school grounds. Again, you're thinking to yourself, what is going on here? This guy needs to go.
Yeah, and I would want to take a close look at the school superintendent and the other people that are trying to cover this up for him. It's like, do you people have any judgment at all? Anyway, yes, that's my 2 cents worth.
All right, Pete. Thank you for the call.
Thank you, Kevin. Sure appreciate having you in the morning. It gets the juices flowing, man.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
Bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436. So this teacher feeds a live puppy to a snapping turtle in front of kids and still has a job. What do you think? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And Living the Dream, Kevin Miller in the morning here, talking about this disturbing story out of Preston, Idaho. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO, where you have a teacher accused of feeding a puppy to a snapping turtle in front of kids. Good times. Let's go to Mark in Eagle with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. I think that's one statistic SOB as far as I'm concerned. And I hope, I cannot stand PETA, but I hope he gets a bunch of those clowns out there around his home, around the school, protesting. So I'm a big animal lover myself. So,
I'll tell you, I just submitted the story to Drudge, so we'll see if Drudge picks it up.
All right, hoorah. Usually people who do those things have other little deep, dark skeletons in your closet. I wonder what you find at this guy's house, too. I want to bring up something about the school district and the bonds. This is going on about twice a year, it seems like. After living here 23 years in the Valley as a small business owner, I watched my taxes, property taxes, go up about $600 some odd, $650 in the last 6-7 years, and it's all related to the school districts. They seem to like to bury and cover over all of our farmland with a lot of these new, all this new construction. You got these out-of-state developers coming in. The counties and cities rub their little greedy hands together because they see tax revenue coming in. They don't build the roads around here to sustain all that, and it's an ongoing problem we have right now. I'm sorry, but they need to pass something like what they did in California, the property tax initiative, Jarvis-Scan, whatever, that allows you to be grandfathered into your property, and you pay basically your property taxes do not go up until you move from that house. You saw that the next person would pay the taxes equated to what that higher value of your home is placed, because this is what prices people out of their homes. They tax you out of your home. You can come out and say, my home's worth $1 million, which it ain't. But that doesn't mean just because you say it's worth $1 million, I got to pay that higher property tax just for the pleasure of having the county say it's worth $1 million. Anywhere else you go, then you're going to be paying that inflated amount. But we really need, as taxpayers out there, to do something about this property tax problem we got, because we're going to be out there just like California is one day down the road, and we're going to go that direction. We need to get some kind of a grandfather clause or something that protects property tax owners from this ever-increasing twice-a-year bond issue that keeps popping up in the schools.
Mark, thank you for the call. Traffic and weather together. And we continue on taking your phone calls at KIDO Talk Radio. Pro-Life, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller.
Yeah, I think that's wrong, what happened down there in Preston. And but you think about what we do in, people go to restaurants that have live lobsters there, and then people eat those. I'm a vegetarian for a reason. I don't like to see any animals being killed and eaten. And, I shot deer when I was a boy, and I stopped doing that. I stopped deer hunting. But I think a person's conscience tells them that it's better not to eat animals. And
but let's go back to let's go back to this teacher.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, come on. What type of sick individual would do that, and what type of individual would allow that person to continue to be in front of 13 and 14-year-old kids?
Well, I used to live down in that part of the country, and they have a lot of mink farms, and there's a lot of mistreatment of the mink animals. That I think that they don't want to harm the hides, so they club them in the head or something when they kill them. And maybe he did that kind of stuff when he was a kid. He worked on a mink farm. I don't know. But people desensitize themselves by killing animals, and it isn't good. I mean,
it isn't good, especially in the classroom. Pro-Life, thank you. Kevin Miller, God bless. Fox News next, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.